Well, I'm Peter Troedsson. I'm the city manager in Albany, Oregon. I have that honor. I've had it for the last 2 years, almost exactly June 26th of 2017. And I serve the city under the guidance of the city council and the mayor.
Okay.
As the CEO equivalent of this organization, the city government.
So explain that a little more. I don't think people understand how city government's structured.
Sure. Well, many people do understand the idea of corporate governance in the United States and many Western countries. Corporations, both private and public, have a board of directors, and that board of directors sets policy and provides strategic guidance for that corporation. And that board works under the leadership of a chairman of the board or chairwoman of the board. That body in the city is the city council and the mayor. Okay, and then that board will hire a chief executive officer, or in the public, in the city management world, it's known as a city manager or city administrator, to oversee the day-to-day administration of the city's operations and to help them with their establishment of priorities, the development of a budget, and broad policy questions that they need to consider. I'm a retired military officer. I served for 30 years in the Coast Guard as a helicopter pilot and as a growing senior officer. At the end of my 30 years, I wanted to continue serving in some capacity. And I looked around and I thought, well, I had throughout my military career, I had enjoyed taking teams of people, building teams and getting things done, and serving. I love the Pacific Northwest, although I'm not originally from here. So I looked for a job in maybe port management, which would make sense for a Coast Guard officer, or city or county management. And I ended up as a deputy city manager in Bothell, Washington. I served there for 3.5 years. And then Albany opened up and I applied, and thankfully I'm here.
So what departments do you oversee? What do you supervise?
Well, the department directors are all the next level. I have a deputy city manager, Jorge Salinas, and he helps with the management of those departments. The ones that are public facing, if you will, are the obvious ones: the police department and the fire department, also the parks and recreation department, also the library department. A little bit less obvious, but just as public facing, is community development and public works engineering, and then also the public works operations department, which runs our water facility, our wastewater facility, our stormwater utility, street maintenance, our transit system, and the airport that the city owns. And then to support that effort on the inside, internal departments include HR, finance, IT, the city attorney's office, although the city attorney is a contract employee of the city, and then of course the municipal court and the court administrative staff, which support the court.
How public is coming to terms with what the city budget is? What are all the numbers? Mm-hmm. And can the average Joe come in and understand what's going on if they wanted to listen?
Yes, the average Joe can come in. Okay. It's a daunting task because the budget is a complex document. And in the city manager's job description, the most prominent responsibility that a city manager has is to present a budget to the council. And in fact, the title is budget officer. I am the budget officer for the city. And that title exists in state law. And there's quite a bit of state law. There's a body of state law that governs how the budget is formed and how it's presented, how it's executed. And that's very complex. So you ask if the average citizen can understand that. It's, yes, but it will take a little bit of effort to actually delve into that. The state recognizes the need for citizen involvement in budget development, and therefore what's required of the city is to create a budget committee. And the budget committee consists of the 7 counselors we have, 6 counselors and the mayor, and then 7 lay people, 7 citizens who are appointed to that committee. And they meet during the period in which we build the budget, and they hear what our constraints are, what the city's strategic plan has laid out as priorities, under the guidance of the city council. And, I have tried in the 2 years I've been here to try to keep them apprised of developments throughout the year as things become apparent in terms of, rising costs in health insurance or anticipated increase in PERS costs and so forth. So there's a need for citizens to be involved, in my opinion. We talked about corporate governance, and this corporation is the only one in which everybody has a share, and you can't sell that share. I mean, you can move away, and therefore you'll forfeit your shares. But this is your government, and the budget that we put together uses your dollars. So everybody should take an interest in what happens. And we try to be, in fact, the city of Albany, before I got here, has won awards for its transparency with its budget. So we take very seriously. If you look behind you can't on the camera, but if you look behind you, you'll see the value statements of the city. And an open, honest, and transparent government is the first value. So it's a very sincere effort to try to make that case and to improve that transparency.
If somebody wanted to come to a budget meeting, are they posted on the city website? Where do they find out?
They are. And I would point out that all meetings of the city council are open to the public. They cannot meet, without having an open meeting, except for a few exceptions. There are executive sessions that are very restricted in their purpose, but all other meetings are open to the public, and they are posted on the website.
Infrastructure,
right?
Road improvements, downtown monies, how things are being approved. Do you want to talk about any of that, how any of that works? Or I know I covered a couple things there.
Sure. Well, the first thing to remember is that it is a very complex document. It's a $345 million budget. Now, that's this last budget that we put together, which is the city's first biennial budget. So it's important to note that $345 million covers 2 years. Okay. And within that $345 million, what gets the most attention is an $85 million portion, which is the general fund. And that's a small, as you can see, that's about there's that little, between a fourth and a third of the city's budget. The rest of it are restricted funds that are enterprise funds or special revenue funds, which are used for water, wastewater, which is probably the largest one. Stormwater treatment or the handling of stormwater, parks, paying off the city's debts and so forth. So getting back to the general fund, within the general fund, about 87% of the general fund is used for public safety, which includes police, fire, and the municipal court. And then the balance of 13% is used for library, parks, and planning efforts within the community development department. We're not doing it justice in talking about it in 5 minutes, but I'm always happy to talk to anybody who's interested in it. And we are trying to create a tool that the public can use and go online and play around with moving a dollar from here to there to see what that does to the budget. And all of that information, pretty much all of it is online and available to people.
How does our general fund measure up to other cities' general fund? Is it usually majority public safety, fire?
Yes. Most cities do use the same. There are some differences between cities. Now, of course, there's a saying in the city management world that once you've seen one city, you've seen one city. But remember, there's state law. So within Oregon, all cities are subject to that state law with respect to budgeting and other laws as well. So yes, they're all similar.
Okay. Is there anything you think that the average person needs to understand about city government? Is there a department that's underrated or not talked about that's super important?
Well, they're all important, and I know that maybe that sounds like a cop-out. It's not. If you liken it back to your own family budget, it's hard to say that the food you eat is more important than the roof over your head, or the clothes you wear. You've got to, and your kids, their education or the care, their medical care. All of this stuff is important. So when you look at the city and what the many different priorities the city has, they are all important. And sadly, one of the things that people should understand is that it is very difficult to be a city councilor and a mayor. You've got to make very difficult decisions. And everybody has different ideas of what those priorities should be. And if we're all going to live in one place, we have to compromise. And the results of that compromise in a democracy is that we elect people to represent us and to make those difficult decisions. And that is one thing that I'd really like people to understand. And the councilors get a lot of flack, but they are every week, and they're looking through reams of documents to try to prepare for meetings, and they're making the best decisions they can. And I will guarantee that all of them want what's best for Albany. They just have different ideas of how to make that happen.
Is there anything else you really want to touch on, being that I'm not an aficionado in city government? Mm-hmm. Is there something that you think people need to understand?
It's why do you have a city government? We all live in this wonderful town together, and as I said, we all have to come together and figure out how to use the resources we have to create the place that we want in Albany. So the big thing, again, I think I've said it once before, is participation, to make your voice heard. But then don't get upset if your voice is not the one that carries the day, because there has to be compromise, and everybody has to learn that, and we all have to be willing to do that, and still participate, still make the voice heard, and still support the city that you love.
If somebody had a question for you, where can they reach you?
Well, they can always reach me through the city's website. I think there's a link to my email address.
Okay.
I think my phone number is also posted there. It's often the case that I get messages on the phone, and I try to return every one of them. So you can get a hold of me.
Okay, great. Thanks for your time.
You bet. Good luck.
Thanks.